unit here at the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. And welcome to the Public Information Session Part 1. As we wrote in the RFP and posted on our website, we will be doing 2 public information sessions. They will not be the same. This one is a general overview, and then the second one is going to be more specific to items to get more detailed into them. Okay. I'm going to be getting started. I'm going to be going a little bit slow in the beginning to give others a chance to enter. Housekeeping items. This meeting is being recorded. By participating, you consent to being recorded. The recording will be made available on our website and our YouTube channel. That is mostly for those that are unable to attend today, so the information is available. Please introduce yourself in the chat with your name, title, and email address. And then questions and comments will be addressed after the presentations. We do have 2 presentations today, and we'll have a Q&A session at that time after the presentations. I think everybody is muted, but I'm going to just say, please remember to mute your microphone to minimize background noise for others and for our presenters. Our agenda for today is introduction, the overview of funding purpose, funding priorities, grantee responsibilities, project evaluation criteria, then our SAGE information, and our Q&A session is going to be at the end. Like I said, I'm going a little bit slow to give others a chance to enter. I would like to introduce our team. I said I'm Catherine Schaefer. My section chief is Kimberly Todash. We have our fiscal staff, which is Jennifer Noblejas, Roxanne Federick, Anne Elizabeth Youssef. Then we have our grant management staff, which is Natalie Young, Fariva Assad, Rebecca Ackley, Rosemary Brown, Lauren Holleran, and Amelia Yates. If you have a grant with us, I'm hopeful you're very familiar with this staff. If you are a potential grantee, you will become very familiar with my staff. Okay, we're going to get started. We are pleased that we have made available $13.4 million for this round of grant funding. This includes funding from 2022, 2023, and 2024. So right now, we have SAGE is open to accept proposals. Our request for proposal document is available on our website. We are accepting grant proposals that target non-point source pollution through watershed restoration, enhancement, and protection strategies for water quality improvements throughout the state. But we do have priority funding areas. For this funding cycle, our priority areas are the Atlantic Coast and the Northeast water regions. The department has dedicated significant resources to understanding the causes of water quality issues across New Jersey. Through this effort, we have identified that reducing non-point source pollution is essential for improving water quality statewide. As part of New Jersey's integrated water quality assessment report, the department uses a rotating basin approach to assess water quality in the state's 5 regions. This process results in a comprehensive evaluation of water quality across the entire state every 10 years. The approach supports the development of effective measures to restore, maintain, and enhance water quality, ensuring that strategies are tailored to the specific needs and conditions of each region. By focusing on regional differences, this method helps maximize the effectiveness of efforts to achieve long-term positive environmental outcomes. To correlate with that document, we do a rotating base approach for the New Jersey's 5 water regions for grant funding. And as you can see, the years that we rotate, and this year, this grant funding cycle is for the Northeast and the Atlantic coast. The department is offering approximately $13.4 million in grant funding for water quality restoration and protection projects. These funds come from the Federal Clean Water Act Section 604B and 319H, as well as the 604B bipartisan infrastructure law. Funds will be used to support projects that address non-point source pollution and improve water quality. A portion of the 319H funding will be used to implement projects identified in approved watershed-based plans. Additionally, some funds will be allocated to planning activities required by the Clean Water Act to ensure effective water management. Our funding priorities for this grant cycle is the development of watershed plans, which is the development of watershed plans throughout the state. We have an appendix in the RFP that addresses what a watershed plan is. You can also do updates to existing approved watershed plans. There is the development of a watershed plan for Saddle River and its sub-watershed, which includes areas in New York that support TMDL initiatives in the Northeast water region. There is lake watershed plans or updates to a lake watershed plans. Extreme weather resilience plans, so it's development of extreme weather resilience and assessment plans that integrate communities faced with adverse environmental and public health stressors. And the emerging contaminants plan, which is the development of a plan to reduce or eliminate emerging contaminants as defined by the US EPA, and priority is given to Cozy Lake. Watershed-based plans are required to follow EPA's 9-element template, and they must receive department approval before being finalized. We are also giving funding for implementation projects. Implementation projects include extreme weather resilience projects using nature-based solutions to reduce the impacts of extreme weather, such as erosion, flooding, and improving water quality. We are looking for projects that implement green infrastructure, such as green roofs and rain gardens, which aim to manage stormwater by infiltration, filtration, or reuse, with priority given to areas connected to combined sewer systems and communities faced with adverse public health and safety stressors. Following New Jersey's Stormwater Best Management Practices Manual, additional projects focus on implementing watershed-based plans or addressing water quality impairments and TMDL allocations will be prioritized in the Northeast or Atlantic coast regions, or in target watersheds identified using EPA's Recovery Potential Screening Tool, which helps determine the most effective restoration practices. The funding provided through this RFP is intended to support efforts focused on water quality restoration improvements. This include activities related to watershed planning, implementing water quality improvement measures from approved watershed plans, and TMDLs using green infrastructure to reduce stormwater runoff into waterways, and taking measures to enhance resilience against extreme weather impacts. Again, more information is found within our request for proposal document on our website. Timeline overview. The RFP is currently open. It was released earlier this month. Today is our first public information session. A second public information session will follow on April 30th at 10 a.m. The link is already on our website with the agenda for that meeting. This is providing an additional opportunity for us to address questions and present items in more detail. Proposals are due to be submitted on June 2nd, 2025. It's at 11:59 p.m. After those proposals are all submitted, the DEP will begin scoring process using the project evaluations criteria. It's listed in the RFP. Funding recommendations will be made by September 30th. Following this, the funding recommendations and the awarding process, we will start the grant agreement drafting stage. And at that time, you may be reached out for slight modifications to your proposal or additional information. Again, proposal submission deadline is June 2nd. Funding notifications is September 30th. And what expenditures by the grantee cannot be outside of the dates listed in the grant agreement. Applicants that are eligible to apply for grants under this RFP are state, regional, local government units within New Jersey, designated water quality management planning agencies, state universities and state colleges, interstate agencies of which New Jersey is a member, a Section 501c3 nonprofit organization. When you submit your proposal submission to be eligible for grant, an applicant must have sufficient staffing and resources with the necessary expertise and environmental experience to execute the proposed project. A grantee must demonstrate the ability to establish and maintain partnerships that ensure effective project implementation, as well as long-term operation and maintenance. Applicants must have the authority to carry out the project and possess the required property or access rights for construction. In addition, eligible projects must be well designed to achieve non-point source pollution reduction and presented with a clear sequence of goals, objectives, and tasks. The project must comply with existing local, state, and federal regulations and be able to obtain the necessary permits. Projects should be viable, shovel-ready, and able to be completed within the agreed-upon timeframe identified in the grant agreement. For non-construction proposals, deliverables such as schedules, reports, training projects, and inventories must be included. The project must be located on public property or private property with signed agreements from the property owner to ensure completion, including required monitoring and evaluation. Required elements for complete proposal is project background summary information, project description, applicant description, monitoring and evaluation information, implementation schedule and budget details, supplemental information as well. Grantees are required to submit quarterly progress and financial reports every 6 months. This provides an update on project status and explain any developments, as well as request financial reimbursement. After completing each best management practice project, grantees must use a spreadsheet tool to estimate pollutant load reductions and report them to the department. Before starting any monitoring measurements or data generating, grantees need to have an approved quality assurance project plan, QOP, and all data must be submitted to the department and to the EPA. Must be submitted to the department so that the department can submit them to the EPA through the GRIT system. Upon project completion, grantees must ensure that the project is finished on time and submit a final report summarizing the results. Additionally, grantees must provide all data generated during the grant period, return any equipment purchased with grant funds, and ensure that the Geographic Information System, GIS, data complies with New Jersey DEP GIS standard and submitted to us. Grantees' responsibilities. Grantees must coordinate all permitting activities with the Department Division of Watershed Protection and Restoration, ensuring that the Bureau of Watershed Management is listed as a co-applicant. Before beginning the installation of any best management practices, a maintenance agreement must be submitted. Additionally, grantees are required to submit a final report in the format specified in the Appendix E of the request for proposal. As part of the project wrap-up, grantees are also responsible for submitting a 1 or 2 page grant accomplishment narrative. This narrative may be used as what the department submits to the EPA for their success story. We have some changes in the RFP that are new changes, so we wanted to point them out. Meals. Grant funds cannot be used to purchase meals or food. The grant funds are intended to support the direct costs of the project, such as equipment, materials, and labor that directly contribute to achieving project's goals. Meals and food are considered personal or indirect expenses, which do not align with the primary purpose of the grant. Using grant funds for such expenses could divert resources away from the core objectives of the project, which could impact its effectiveness. To ensure compliance with the terms of the grant, it's important that funds are used exclusively for project-related expenses that directly support water quality improvements and related activities. New stage pages for QOPs, quality assurance project plans, and best management practices have been added. Quality assurance project plans, QOPs, are required for any type of monitoring conducted under the grant, not just water quality monitoring. This includes monitoring related to other environmental parameters, such as habitat assessments, pollutant load reductions, or any other data collection activities. While this has always been a requirement, some grantees in the past have misunderstood or overlooked the need for a QOP in these cases. To clarify, we are emphasizing this point to ensure full compliance with the program's guidelines. The QOP ensures that monitoring activities are conducted with consistent methodology, accuracy, and reliability, which is crucial for the valid data that supports project goals and outcomes. This is not a new policy, but a clarification to avoid confusion moving forward. Progress reports are now required every 6 months instead of, in the past, it was every 3 months, to allow grantees more time to gather all the necessary deliverables and information needed for submission in SAGE. This change reduces the need for grantees to combine project reports, which often leads to delays and incomplete reporting. By providing 6-month interval, grantees can more effectively compile and report on all project data and outcomes, ensuring a more accurate and comprehensive update. A valid UEI number is required at time of proposal submission. I want to point out again that we will be having a second pre-award information session on April 30th, and some of the items that I just mentioned will, especially the QOPs, we will go over in a little bit more detail in that information session. This is our project evaluation criteria. Again, this information is in the RFP that you can find on our website. The evaluation criteria provides a standardized framework for assessing project proposals. Each proposal is evaluated based on its alignment with DEP's priorities, technical approach, feasibility, budget, and environmental impact, among other factors. These criteria ensure that funding decisions are made in a fair, objective, and transparent manner. The evaluation process includes screening proposals for eligibility based on compliance with the requirements outlined in Part 4 of the RFP. Proposals that pass the initiative eligibility screening undergo a thorough evaluation against established criteria detailed in Appendix B, which is the project evaluation criteria. Proposals are scored and ranked based on the evaluation results. Each proposal is scored using numerical scale for each evaluation criterion. The evaluators assign scores based on how well the proposal meets the established criteria. The review panel makes final recommendations based on the evaluated scores, which are submitted to the DEP leadership for final funding decisions. Just want to note that after grants proposals are awarded funding, we have another information session to discuss next steps with the grantees that are awarded. The next steps in this RFP process is the second public information session, which will be held on April 30th. If you have questions about anything between that time, feel free to reach out to us. But again, at that session, which the agenda is posted on our website, we would like to go into further detail of some of the information that is required to be submitted with a proposal. Please use the guidance that we've made available when you're preparing your proposal. There are a lot of links in the RFP as well as on our website. So use those helpful documents and submit your application so that we can review it to award it. Next up, we have Jennifer Noblejas, who will be discussing SAGE.
Hello, everyone. I will share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So hello, my name is Jennifer Noblejas, and today I will show you how to navigate DEP's electronic management system called NJDEP SAGE. Let me go to the next page. First, I want to point out that other state departments use a similar SAGE system, but DEP's SAGE system is independent and is not connected to these other systems. So please make sure you use the right system. Today, I will walk you through the website where you can find information on the RFP and the link to the SAGE system, how to register an organization, how to add members to your organization, how to apply and submit a grant application, and some management tools that are within the system that might be helpful for you. So let's go to the grant website. So this is our program website, and the water quality restoration grant opportunity is found here. This page includes the RFP documents and other pertinent information, such as the submission deadline, again, June 2nd before midnight. If you scroll down, you'll find some guidance documents. And then after each session, we'll post our presentations at this location. And then the links to the NJDP SAGE is found here and also here. So if I click on that link, it will take you to the welcome page of the system. So if you are already a registered organization, you've seen this website, you've logged on, please use the same username and password. Only new organizations that have not used the system should register, and only eligible applicants will be approved. Consultants are not eligible applicants, but can be added as members of the applicant's organization. Here you will see the registration instructions, and when you click here or under new user, you will fill in your organization information and then click the save button. This will submit the request and you will receive an email notification that it was submitted. Please note that it may take up to 72 hours for the department to accept the registration. So if you go back to the welcome page, there is also a section for vendor ID registration. A vendor ID is needed in order for you to receive payments. And if you do not have a vendor ID, you need to get one through the NJ Start website here. So after you log on, this will be the homepage of the system. The first thing you should do is make sure your organization information is correct. You will click on My Organizations, and then you want to make sure that the address that is in Sage matches the address you have in NJ Start. This is very important. Also on this page, you can add your vendor ID number here and your UEI number here. The UEI number is the new federal ID number and it replaces the DUNS number, so you can leave this field blank. Once everything is complete, you can click on the Save button. And then now we want to make sure you have all the members of your organization in the system. So you go on organization members, and this lists all the people in your organization. If a person has left your organization, put in an end date here under the active dates column, and then click the Save button. This will deactivate their login. Now, if you want to add a new member, you would click on the Add Members link and then click on the New Members button. Then you will fill in the person's information. You have to create a default username and password for them. And then you will determine a role for them, either authorized official or viewer. So authorized official gives them initiate, edits, submittal rights, and the viewer only allows the person to view the documents. So once you complete this page, you would click on the Save and Add to Organization button. So now some key points to remember in this section are, you must have the contact person or executor of the grant, the financial officer, and the project manager added as members of your organization. This will be needed for the application. Next, you must email each person you added their default username and password. The system will not notify them. And then once they can log on, they can change their username and password under the My Profile section on the homepage. Now I will show you how to apply and submit an application. So if you go back to the homepage again, you will navigate to the View Available Opportunities section. You would click the View Opportunities and then search for the grant you want to apply to. So in this case, it would be the water quality restoration 2025 down here. So you would click that and then click the filter button, and the opportunity will show up. So you will click on Apply Now. And then this will open up the application documents. The application forms are found on the Forms menu, and then you could click on the Forms menu, and then you can see all the pages of the application. You must click on each page of the application. And then fill in the required information. And then click the Save button. So I recommend clicking the Save button to make sure that there are no errors on the page, and then clicking the Next button. When each page of the application has been completed without any errors, you'll go to Status Changes and then click the Apply Status under Application Submitted. But if you decide not to proceed with the grant application, you can click on the Apply Status under Cancel Application. So let's say you haven't submitted it, but you will need to go back to the grant application. On the home page, there will be a My Tasks section that will appear. And then if you open your My Tasks, you will see the documents here under Application and Process. So you will click on the document name, and this takes you back to the application where you'll see the Forms menu again. Also, another way to search for the application is to go to the My Applications tab and search for it there. And then lastly, here are some management tools in the documents that might be helpful for you. There is a Create Full Print version, which downloads a PDF of the completed application. Create Full Blank Print version, which is a PDF of the blank application for you to look over. And then Add Edit People. So Add Edit People links this particular document with the members of your organization. So these are all the members of my organization. Their name is checkmarked, so that means that they are linked to this document. If the checkmark is not there, then this person will not see the document. They can't open it up. They won't receive any notifications. So please make sure that you have the appropriate people assigned to this document. And then some key points to remember in this section is that if you add members to your organization after you initiated the grant application, those members will not be automatically associated with the grant document. You will have to go to that Add Edit People link in the management tools and then make sure that their name is checkmarked. The My Task section will appear on the home page, where then there is an action that the applicant or grantee needs to perform. For the narrative sections of the application, it's best to copy and paste from a Word document. Please make sure you save each page of the application and it contains no errors. This is a funny one. Please do not be click happy. Meaning please refrain from clicking multiple times thinking that the system will go faster. This will only cause the system to create extra pages that will later need to be deleted by the program. So the system may be slow, so please be patient. And then when the application is complete, go to Status Changes and hit the Apply Status button underneath Application Submitted. The best browser to use is Google Chrome or Edge. And then lastly, on our website, we have these guidance documents. It does contain some videos, so it will help you navigate through the Sage system a little bit easier. And then if you have any questions, this is Catherine's contact information. If you have any specific Sage issues or problems, please contact me. And then if you have any general questions, it should be directed at the program email address at npsgrants@dep.nj.gov. So I'm done with my presentation, and I can open it up for questions.
So you can put a question in the chat, or you can raise your hand and we can just take live questions. Dave Rogers.
Hi, it's Bob Ballou. I'm here with Dave Rogers. I'm with the Mountain Lake Community Association. Dave is a committeeman with the town of Liberty here in Warren County. Thank you, Catherine and Jennifer, for your excellent presentations. Catherine, my question is, can you speak to the funding potential for an application that scores well per your project evaluation criteria, but is not in a priority watershed?
Well, you can submit an application if you're not in a priority watershed. We have requirements under our 319 funding guidelines that require that we give funding for implementation of projects that have already been identified and approved watershed-based plans. So I'm just using this as a rough example. If a project that was submitted in an area that's not in the Northeast or the Atlantic region, but they are implementing a project in a watershed that was approved under a watershed-based plan, and their scores high, and there are not a significant amount of projects that were submitted for implementation of a approved watershed-based plan that are in the Northeast or Atlantic region, it could very well be given to the project that was submitted for the non-Northeast or Atlantic region. And I hope that answers that question. That's just one example. We do have the potential for funding grant applications that are not in those priority watersheds. But we do look for those priority watersheds. We do look for TMDL improvement projects. But like I had said, our funding sources, we have an allotted amount that's going to be going specifically for planning. 604B funding can only be used for planning. So because we have to meet guidelines, sometimes the grants are awarded in areas that are not in the priority water regions, because we have to meet those, like I just said. We have to meet our guidelines as well. So it is a possibility.
Thank you. And your excellent was perfect in that it fits us to a T. So thank you very much. Really appreciate that.
Do we have any more questions? I don't see any other hands raised. Michael Pisoro?
Great, thank you very much, and I appreciate the presentation. So with the non-point, the planning, I realize it can't be used for regulatory requirements. If it exceeds regulatory requirements and could also help meet regulatory requirements for the MS4 permit, but exceeds those requirements, is a project applicable, or could that be applied for? And very specifically, what I'm thinking is, towns have to do the watershed improvement plans, but those are individual. If they band together and do them as a watershed plan, how would that be considered?
So this is a very sticky subject. So I will try to say it the best I can. Especially 319 funding cannot go directly towards an MS4 requirement. So if you're required to do something under MS4, you cannot get funding from 319 or 604B to go directly towards an MS4 requirement. However, we all are in agreement that watershed improvement plans overlap with the goals of a watershed-based plan. So yes, you can get together and do a watershed-based plan under our funding sources, which for a watershed-based plan, you can use 604B or 319 funding. And, areas touched on in the watershed-based plan can then also meet your WIP requirements under stormwater. Yes, that is very much acknowledged that they do overlap, but they are, technically total. Your requirements under WIP, I think, are very specific. What is it? Identifying the sources and identifying things, and the requirements under our watershed plan are slightly different, but they do overlap. So we will acknowledge that. But yes, if you submit a watershed-based plan, even we could also use the example, there may be a watershed-based plan that has already been approved, and WIPs are very new, that when you're now preparing your WIP, you could, in essence, already be using the information that was gathered during an approved watershed-based plan that was in existence before the WIP requirement came about.
Great, thank you very much.
Sydney Duncan?
Hi, yes. My question is, I know there's funding allocated specifically for, watershed planning and things like that, as well as implementation projects. But would design and permitting be eligible for funding if it's for a project that will be implemented within the 3-year period of performance?
Yes. So we didn't touch on that, and I think that is a topic in our next public information session. So design, absolutely. Permitting, if you are submitting a permit, so permitting application fees cannot be paid for with 319 funding. But if you are submitting a permit application to the department for a permit, I think I mentioned land resource protection permit, if we are listed as the co-applicant, there is no permit fee. So, technically the answer to your question is yes for design, no for permitting. But in your budget, you wouldn't have to do that permit. That permit fee would not be included in your permit because it's not going to be charged for you if we're listed as the co-applicant.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Does anyone else have questions?
I have a follow-up question to Sydney's question. I guess I just wanted to clarify, would an application be eligible for funding if it was design and permitting funding or design funding only, with no implementation funds identified for a project, but with intention to implement within the next 3 years?
So it wouldn't be I'm just making sure I understand what you're asking.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like you're doing a watershed-based plan. You're not doing a plan. you're just doing a project design. So it would be more of an implementation project, but with no intention of going, and I'm just going to say like a living shoreline. You're going to prepare the living shoreline and do the engineering and the review process and get the permits, but you're not actually going to implement the living shoreline project.
Correct. Essentially, to get to the point to position a project to pursue future implementation funding from other sources.
We have awarded grant funding for that in the past, especially, specifically Living Shoreline comes to mind, nature-based solution projects, because some of them become to be very large projects, and then the necessary funding for them to be implemented becomes quite large. So it is something we have approved in the past. I can't 100% say that we are definitely going to be approving it because I can't make that decision right now in general, but it is something you can submit an application for. Yes, that's what your overall question was. You can submit an application for it. Some of the things that I would encourage you to list if you're doing it that way is potential funding sources and more importantly, partnerships. What the next step is, because we wouldn't ideally want, we would want a project that we would expect to be implemented. So the greater of the chance of it being implemented because you have a support, a sponsorship, something else already in line or expected, that shows a great, support moving forward.
Great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So, assuming nobody else has any more questions, I just want you all to be aware that this meeting is the same link as the next meeting. So this chat can stay active, through the month of April. I think it was even started last week because we switched the meeting dates. So if you have any more questions, you can put them in the chat. It will be monitored. I would recommend emailing myself if it's a SAGE question, Jen, or we have the NPS grants at DEP email address that are monitored by more people to help answer any questions. And like I said, we have a second information session, which our agenda is posted. I don't have it open. I don't have the agenda posted at this time. But that will, if you have other questions, you can wait until that session if you want to just discuss them specifically, or maybe they would be answered during that session. But we are always open to help you and assist you any way we can during the submittal process. If you have any questions, let us know. Again, hopefully we'll see you all on April 30th, and thank you for joining.